me. We're talking about people that are as old as I am. This is late adulthood. I'm 75 years old. I can't keep my hair down for some reason. Anyway, so let's go ahead. You get hair growing out of your ears. It's really weird. I pull it from time to time. There's something going on around here. I think I've got allergies. I've never had really allergies before. Every once in a while, I get a little sniffle or something. But this is really weird because yesterday I was coughing and I filled up my trash can with Kleenex. Anyway, I filled up my trash can with Kleenex. Today it's raining, so it doesn't feel the same. It's not as bad as it was yesterday. I don't think it's a cold. I'm pretty sure it's allergies. Anyway, so let's go ahead and get started. Yeah, you don't want to look at my hair that won't sit down. So we'll go ahead and get started on the. Oh, we're already doing that. Okay, there we go. Okay, this is chapter 16 and 17, late adulthood. We'll cover both of them in one day, in one lecture. As people pass the 65-year mark, if they make it that far, genetics dictate how much they wrinkle and how quickly they will look old. Depending on the debts that they have created by smoking, drinking, and perhaps taking drugs, not to mention not getting enough sleep, the changes may be severe or minuscule. The aging process in late adulthood is called senescence. Metabolic inefficiency leads to subtle changes in the body's organ systems. The body will adapt to the decline initially, and the individual will not notice the changes, but eventually the changes will become so extreme that the body can no longer adapt. Collagen is a fibrous protein that is the basic component of the connective tissue throughout the body. As collagen loses its elasticity, wrinkles form and systems weaken. Collagen breaks down and break Collagen breakdown is also responsible for lupus erythematosus, scleroderma, and rheumatoid arthritis. And it's because something horrible is happening to the collagen. That's what causes these problems. It's the breakdown of collagen. It's really kind of odd if you've ever been around somebody with lupus erythematosus or lupus erythematosus. It's nurses pronounce it one way, doctors pronounce it another way. I'm a lab tech, so I get to pronounce it any way I want, I guess. Asian, African, and Latin cultures have favorable views of elders. Western culture views are becoming more favorable. Western culture is still combating ageism. And there are three substages of late adulthood. 65 to 74 is young old. That's where I was last year. And now I hit 75. So I'm right here in the middle. 75 to 84 is old. And anything over 85 is oldest old. And as you can see, the country that seems to be accumulating the most old people is Japan, and then Germany, and then China, and they have just passed the United States. Excuse me. Hair continues to gray and thin, bones thin, especially in women. Age spots develop, sun exposure hastens development, height and weight decline. The teeth will yellow. And so I was reading an article the other day, and they were talking about some people have just their teeth are not white. Their teeth are naturally kind of a grayish, yellowish hue, and that's throughout most of their lives. So as you get older, the teeth actually get darker. Exercise and healthy diet can slow some appearance changes. As men and women move past 65, they begin losing weight and height. Physical activity decreases, food consumption decreases, metabolism lowers, Health tends to decline. Muscle and tissue mass begins to atrophy if you allow it to do so. I lift weights, so I'm still here, I think. Well, anyway, I lift weights, so I'm maintaining my muscle mass. As a matter of fact, my GP is a bodybuilder. Well, he lifts weights too. He does maintenance lifting like I do, and what he suggested is that that my wife and I start taking creatine monohydrate, which builds muscle. And the reason is so that we can maintain our muscle mass. Now, I lift weights, so I'm actually going to bulk up with the creatine, and my wife doesn't lift weights, so I have a feeling she's not going to she's not gonna build muscle because she's not lifting any weights. We'll see. Okay, well, you guys will. We'll see how this works out. And we've been taking it for about 6 months. I haven't taken my creatine today yet, but let's see, maybe 9 months. It's really interesting because I've had all this damage to certain parts of my body. My shoulders, I've got tears in my shoulders from time to time, muscle tears, and it's actually healing my muscles. So my shoulders aren't nearly as sore as they have been in the past. Before I lift twice a week, and before my muscles or my shoulders were always sore when I did my first lift, so I'd have to work through the pain, and now that's cured. That's taken care of. Something's happened, and I think it's the creatine has healed my chronic tears. Really odd. According to my doctor, let's see, people over 60 should start taking creatine to maintain their muscle mass. But I'm just wondering what it will do to people that don't actually lift weights like I do. What's going to happen to them? Do, is it going to fix their muscles? I don't know. It's not uncommon for people over the age of 65 to lose all their teeth. One of the things that's happening to me, my teeth are fragmenting. I mean, sometimes I'll bite down on something and a chunk of tooth will chip off. It's really kind of interesting. With the depletion of the immune system, periodontal disease and gingivitis are not rare among the elderly. However, much of their dental problems are due to poor dental practices of the past and neglectful individual practices. In old age, muscles atrophy and bones become brittle. Mine aren't atrophying. I've got my muscle mass just like I have had in the past. So this is me, a normal spine, and I don't have any other problems. Muscle elasticity is reduced, causing stiffness. If the individual suffers from osteoporosis, scoliosis, which is an S-curved spine, or kyphosis, which is a humpback posture, uh, problems are sometimes the results. And of course, I have okay. I have excuse me. I have okay posture, so I'm more like this than anything else. Overworked joints tend to wear out, and by the time people are in their late adulthood, the wear and tear becomes obvious in the form of arthritis and rheumatism. If the joint degenerates too much, it might have to be replaced, but only major joints like knees and hips. And my wife has two artificial hips. I don't have anything. It's really odd because I've torn all kinds of meniscus in my left knee, but it feels better than my right knee. I think I have a little arthritis, possibly in my right knee. I've been an athlete all my life. I've run. I was a track star in college. I've been running ever since, and I don't have seem to have any problems at all. I played softball until I was 60. I just don't seem to have problems. I have torn muscles, um, but they haven't stopped me from doing things. Another joint problem is gout. Gout is caused by a metabolic disorder that allows uric acid crystals to form in joints. Gout can form anywhere, but it is normally found in the feet or ankles. It is most commonly found in the joint of the big toe, and I have gout. I've had gout since I was 18 years old, as weird as that sounds, but I've always had it. They tell you to stay away from certain foods, so I have. I've stayed away from those foods, and I rarely get I rarely have any gout problems these days, as long as I stay away from fish. I can't eat fish. If I eat fish, then my joints start looking like that. So I don't eat fish. Individuals who have cardiovascular problems in middle adulthood have worsening problems as they age. Further accumulation of fatty plaque in the blood vessels leads to easier fatigue when exercising. Exercise decreases, leading to a more sedentary life, which exacerbates their condition. Worsening conditions cause increased blood pressure, and I do have arteriosclerosis to some extent. I've had 4 stents put in my heart, but I'm okay. I seem to be okay. Um, I have been diagnosed with aortic stenosis, aortic valve stenosis. Stenosis means a narrowing, and so that valve is narrowing, and I'm not getting as much blood. Theoretically, that's what's happening. I don't feel any different. The doctors keep saying, well, one of these days you're not going to be able to walk across the room because it tires you out so much. Well, none of that is happening. I'm still walking, and I'm still lifting weights without any problem. But one of the reasons I can't move back to Salie is because right now I'm living at 700 feet, and Salie is at 7,000 feet. So because it's a mile and a half up, it puts more pressure on my heart, and for that reason, and the fact that you don't have there's no emergency service for non-natives in your area, I really can't move back to Salie, and that's the reason I'm not coming back in the fall. The board of directors has decided that everybody has to be on campus. All the faculty have to be on campus, and that's really the reason I'm not coming back. Sorry about that. There's nothing I can really do about it, but it would be too dangerous for me to come back. As people age and their activity level declines, their lungs lose their flexibility, stamina decreases, chest muscles and the diaphragm become weaker. Age-related conditions may further reduce chest capacity. Diseases of reduced immunity and reduced capacity may develop lung cancer, emphysema, or pneumonia. And of course, since I walk every day, or I have been walking, I'm okay. My lungs aren't losing their elasticity. He said, coughing. As people age, their digestive system loses its flexibility to take care of any food that you try to feed it. The chemical structure of digestive juices changes. Digestive disorders begin to appear, especially if stress has bothered digestion at a younger age. Constipation is common, hernias are common, gallbladder problems are common, gastritis or heartburn is common, and diverticulitis. Of these, the only problem I have is gastritis, which I take care of with Prilosec. I take Prilosec every day. I've taken it this morning. I haven't taken my creatine. I need to do that. My creatine's in gummies, and I don't really like gumdrops. I don't like the texture, so it's kind of tough. The other thing that you can get, you can dissolve your creatine in hot liquid, and I don't drink any hot liquids. I don't drink coffee or tea or hot chocolate. I don't drink. I've never drunk any of that stuff. I only drink cold liquids. So and creatine won't dissolve in cold liquids. So I have to eat. I have to consume my creatine in gummies. Anyway, there is a reason why older people discuss their bowel movements because the lifestyle reduces movement. Bowel regularity is reduced because of a more sedentary daily routine. The result is problems of the colon and rectum, such as constipation and hemorrhoids. And there you go, right there. But I don't have that problem because I haven't reduced my movement. I walk, I drink plenty of liquids, cold, of course, and I don't have any of these problems. Actually, I do have hemorrhoids, but that's a family thing. All the men in my family have had hemorrhoids. My poor dad, during World War II, he I guess he didn't have to march, so that was pretty good. But he was riding around in a jeep all day, and it really caused. They used to call them piles, and that really was a problem for him. Before he went away to war, he had hemorrhoids, and he had to have them surgically removed. But that didn't really help too much because he's bouncing around. And I don't know if you've ever seen a World War II Jeep, but there's not a lot of padding in the seats. Anyway, poor guy. He's bouncing around and causing all kinds of interesting problems. So he traveled all the way from He was there on D-Day in Normandy, and he went all the way through France and into Germany, and he got caught in the bulge. So, whoops. The concept of high and low fiber hasn't been around for very long. For this reason, most of the World War II and baby boom generations didn't understand how to combat the horrors of constipation and hemorrhoids. Now we know that while genes dictate digestive structures, high fiber diets can very often alleviate diverticulitis as well as constipation and hemorrhoids. As people move into old age and slip into more sedentary lifestyle, they tend to gain weight, many to the point of obesity. As connective tissue weakens, a portion of the stomach may slide up next to the esophagus, leading to indigestion, gastritis, chest pain, difficulty swallowing, and this condition is known as hiatal hernia. That's a hiatal hernia right there. I do not have that problem. Another problem that can be attributed to low fiber diets is diverticulitis. Diverticula are weakening of the colon wall, causing pockets to form. These pockets can become inflamed and cause pain, nausea, constipation, diarrhea, and perforation. You don't want to have a perforation because then all the bacteria from your colon will leak into your abdominal cavity and cause peritonitis, and then you die. The gallbladder's function is to hold and concentrate bile for the digestion of fats. With age, the efficiency of the gallbladder is reduced. If the individual continues to maintain a high fat diet, they may develop gallstones, which can block the bile duct, causing inflammation or gallbladder disease. And there you go. There's gallstones. As people age, most of their bodily functions suffer because blood flow decreases and their organs become less efficient. Sometimes the individual may lose their bladder control and suffer from involuntary leakage, a condition known as incontinence, which means that you have to wear a diaper. The most common genitourinary problem for men is an enlarged prostate from sexual abstinence or contracting STIs. And I keep talking about this. Most people don't want to talk about it, okay? Men have to have sex, okay? That's the way it works. Because if they don't, if they are abstinent for an extended length of time, their prostate will build up. the prostate can become inflamed. If they contract STIs, they have a similar problem. But what happens is when they ejaculate, because of the scar tissue in their urethra, it's not a complete ejaculation, and they're not producing as much semen as they should. So you need to clean this prostate out from time to time. It needs to be cleaned out from time to time. So men really need to either have sex or masturbate to keep that area clean. This is the way it's supposed to look. You know, it's not very large. It's about the size of a walnut, but when it swells up, it can be as big as a lemon or an orange or a tangerine. Anyway, that's what happens. This is one of those things that I'm telling you about it. You can complain to everybody that I talked about. People needing to ejaculate, males needing to ejaculate. Okay, that's fine, but this is just the way it is. We see prostatitis in priests because theoretically they're not supposed to have sex. I don't know what's happening with those individuals. We saw a lot of rock stars who were having indiscriminate sex. We saw a lot of them dying of prostatitis because of the STIs, the sexually transmitted infections. What was I reading? Well, we won't go into all the strange things that are taking place. It's just one of the things that happens to men as they get older. This is very common. The prostate encircles the urethra. Enlargement leads to a blockage of urinary flow, like this, pinches it off. So if a man starts having problems urinating, when it takes him a while to get going, and then when it's an incomplete emptying of the urinary of the bladder, now you got a problem. Urine flow problems can lead to increased bladder infections because there are some bacteria in there, but you run it through so frequently that you don't have to worry about it. But as men get older and they develop prostatitis or swollen prostate glands, then the bacteria get to stay in the bladder and cause an infection if necessary. And this is one of the reasons why if a male, as they get older, some of them will need to use a catheter in order to get past this blockage right here. And that's the only way that they can urinate. Despite the troublesome prostate gland, women tend to have more urinary problems than men. And it's mostly because their urethra is closer to their bladder. So the probability of bacteria getting in there is a lot higher. Men's urethra is about 3 times longer. And for that reason, they don't get urinary tract infections very frequently. Part of the problem has to do with the shorter urethra and proximity of the vagina. Bladder infections may lead to inflammation of the bladder, a condition known as cystitis. Other genitourinary problems that women may have include infections in the vaginal area, prolapsed uterus, cancer of the vulva, or cervix. And the infections usually have to do with pelvic inflammatory disease is one of the really severe problems that they can have. Prolapsed uterus isn't that common. We used to see it all the time. And there's a lot of strange things that have happened, and people evolve. That's not right. Society evolves and changes their ideas about things. Well, when a woman was supposed to stop having sex when she went through menopause, she was supposed to stop having sex. And this caused all kinds of interesting problems. The human body, it may be true that humans were only meant to be around for 30 or 40 years. And once we started living into our 80s and 90s, all the kinds of strange stuff started happening. And then, of course, society comes in and tells people not to have sex. And it messes up the guy because, his prostate's not getting flushed out. And she's starting to have problems because the muscles that used to maintain her vaginal area is they're weakening because they're not because she's not having sex anymore. Another thing that happened back in the 60s and 70s is that women were wearing girdles, so their abdominal walls were weakening. The muscles didn't have to control anything, uh, so they didn't have to maintain muscle mass in their abdominal area. Their abs were tight because they wore girdles to make themselves look like they had a flatter abdomen, and this causes all kinds of problems. You put these things on, and so that you look good, and it really screws everything up. So now we don't wear girdles, or women don't wear girdles anymore. Most of them don't. I guess they wear Spanx, but girdles were a lot tighter than Spanx are, I think. I think they are. I'm not sure. Anyway, lots of problems with this area. A lot of it has to do with the fact that things are changing. Men that used to maintain mistresses, they were living into their 70s and 80s, and the men that didn't have mistresses and the ladies that cut them off at 40 or 50, these guys were dying of prostate cancer. All this stuff was taking place, and we can talk about it or not talk about it. I can give you the Disney version of this thing, but people just try to ignore these things that happen. And since I'm not coming back in the fall, you guys can complain all you like. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I can't get fired. I've already been fired. I'm not coming back. As an individual, I'm going to teach over the summer, though, so don't worry about it. Well, if you're taking any of the summer classes. And I may actually be adjuncting in the fall, so I may actually come back. But I can't come back to the campus. That might be a death sentence for me. I love you guys, but not enough to shoot myself in the head. As the individual ages, there are significant changes in the central nervous system. The speed of nerve cell transmission slows. Brain and nerve cells diminish in number. More sedentary lifestyle leads to a decrease in oxygen transport to the brain. Reaction time decreases. Why isn't this happening to me? Because I lift weights, I walk, and I'm maintaining my intellectual capacity by teaching classes and putting together lectures. Oh, I made the stupid mistake. I changed my I I changed the textbook for research methods over the summer. So now I have to put together more lectures over the summer. I'm such an idiot sometimes. But it's a cheaper book, so you guys are going to get off with a cheap textbook. Because of the decreased reaction time, perception, memory, and some reflexes are affected. This is especially true when driving. The decrease of oxygen to the brain can also lead to sleep disturbances, memory problems, general irritability, and insomnia. I slept for 8 hours last night. Maybe 9 hours. I never do that. I never sleep for more than 5 or 6 hours. And now I'm feeling a little grumpy, so I guess that's why I'm willing to tell you guys this stuff. I tend not to have memory problems. I don't really have sleep disturbances, and I can fall asleep, in a nanosecond. It pisses my wife off because she's having sleep problems, and I never have any sleep problems. I can fall asleep, sitting in my chair, and sometimes I will. I'll be sitting here working on my stuff, and all of a sudden I just fall asleep. It's not narcolepsy. It's relaxation. I'll look at my watch to see what my heart rate is, and it'll be in the 40s. Da 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 da. Excuse me. Vision tends to decline as people reach late adulthood. A greater threshold of light is required to stimulate the retinal cells. Acuity decreases due to changes in the lens, the pupil size, and the ability to focus. Decrease in the ability to adapt to light and dark is a problem. And this is something that I am starting to experience. I went to the eye doctor, the ophthalmologist, the other day, and he said your eyesight is not really decreasing. I'm what did he say? I'm 20/30 in my right eye, and I'm 20/10. Or no, that's not right. I'm 20/70 in my right eye, and 20/20 in my left eye. Anyway, and I can see my eye clouding up. He said my cataracts aren't too bad. As you age, it gets milkier. You get a milky film over your eyes, and mine aren't too bad. But I do need more light now than I ever have before. And by golly, the light bulbs that they sell you just aren't very bright. Eye disorders that affect late adulthood, floaters in the visual field, and let me see if I can get the floaters so you can see what a floater is. And I think they took it out. These are floaters right here. These little chunks of stuff. I've got floaters. Maybe this will work. That's not going to work. Anyway. Cataracts. This is what a cataract looks like. Glaucoma. Glaucoma is where you have excess pressure in your eye, and it can destroy your optic nerve. My brother has glaucoma, and has to put eye drops in his eyes every morning. Drooping eyelids is a problem. Macular degeneration. It's where you lose the vision in the middle of your field. Wait a second. There we go. There, I got it back. The arrow. Macular degeneration is caused by a decreased blood supply to the retina, causing poor vision when looking directly at something, though peripheral vision is sharp. And this is what macular degeneration looks like. Okay, these are floaters right here. I've got floaters, but they're not as bad as they used to be. You know, the more stressed I am, the more floaters I have, and then I'll see flashing lights in my peripheral vision, as weird as that is. And stress will cause all this stuff to come out. And I was stressing out. I was stressing out about the fact that I don't get to come back in the fall, but I'm pretty resolved to it right now. So I'm feeling pretty good about myself. I'm feeling okay, even though I'm not coming back. Hearing is the most frequently lost sense as people age. About half of the people over 65 have some degree of hearing loss. Males tend to have earlier and greater hearing losses, mostly because many jobs require being around loud noises. High-frequency sounds are usually the first to go, but low-frequency loss may increase as people age. And of course, I do have hearing loss. I'm starting to have problems picking out people's voices when there's other noise around. My wife, she's so funny. We'll be riding in the car and we'll be listening to the radio, and then she'll start talking to me. And the radio is in between me and her. So I really can't hear what she's saying. And half the time she's turned looking out the window while she's talking to me. So I'll turn off the radio and she'll stop talking. And so she's all done. So I'll turn the radio back on, and then she starts talking again. It's really, I'm laughing about it, but it's really kind of irritating. For most people, their sense of taste and ability to smell decline with age. Taste declines because of the loss of taste buds, which forces the individual to over-season their food in order to improve the taste. And I may be getting there. But I can usually pick out flavors in foods. Drives my wife crazy. I'll say, "Did you put garlic salt in this?" You know, and she can't taste hardly anything. In a like manner, the odor receptors in the nose decrease in number. This can lead to not being aware of their own odor, as well as not detecting smoke from burning food or unpleasant odors that permeate their house. This happened to me the other day. I think I was doing a lecture, I think. Anyway, I was trying to finish the lecture, and we were baking bacon in the oven, and my wife was in the dining room, which is closer to the kitchen than my office, and she was burning the bacon, and I came out. I started smelling burning bacon, and I'm farther away than she is. She didn't even smell it. She didn't even smell it after I told her that she burned the bacon. As weird as that is, so you know, my sense of smell is really keen. I'm not exactly sure why. It was I have the ability to smell things. But then again, when you work in the laboratory, you get urine specimens. You got a cup of urine sitting there, or you'll get whatever, and you can smell things. And I was able to detect there are when a woman is pregnant, she puts off pheromones, special pheromones, and I could smell those, so I could tell if somebody was pregnant just by their concentration of urine sitting in a cup. As weird as that sounds, but I was around concentrated urine. I mean, that's one of the things you have to realize. I've been able to detect diabetes by the smell and also cancer by the smell. I mean, that you do put off certain odors with all of these things. Anyway, I don't tell anybody. They think I'm crazy. But then again, how many people are sitting around, 15 urine specimens? I mean, that doesn't happen. So people just aren't around this stuff. And I was because I was a lab tech. So, I had to, and it wasn't like I was sniffing them. It was just that the odor was there. As and usually it's fairly unpleasant, but that's the way it works. You take the job that you get. That didn't have any. There were some worse jobs than that I had to do. Autopsies are pretty stinky. Um, working in parasitology with feces is always never a good time. The quality of sleep declines with age. Sleep less. They sleep less deeply. The time in light sleep increases, and in deep sleep decreases. Sleep apnea is a common sleep problem. It can be treated with the CPAP device. My wife was doing this for a long time, for about 3 or 4 years. She was using the CPAP machine. She's stopped doing that now, and of course she's starting to snore again, and she's waking herself up and then having to get up. I'm not sure what's going to happen with her sleep. She's always had problems with sleeping. She likes to sleep late, but she'll go to bed at 10 o'clock, and she won't go to sleep until 12. Why in the world would you do that to yourself? And I can go to sleep, in seconds, and it irritates the hell out of her. I'm I'm laughing because sleep is in. I mean, we both probably sleep 5 or 6 hours a night, but she lays in bed a lot longer than I do. Psychological issues can also impair sleep: depression, anxiety, and medical conditions. Though most older adults have one or more chronic conditions, they are relatively in good health. The most common complaints include cardiovascular disease, which I have, hypertension, which I have, arthritis, which I kind of have, hearing impairment, which I have, cataracts, which I don't have, glaucoma, which I don't have, and lower back pain. Surprisingly, as somebody who's been an athlete all their life and lifted lots and lots of weight, probably incorrectly, I have never had back problems. Older adults are less likely to get acute illnesses, but when they do, they tend to be more severe and last longer than with younger adults. Because of this, hospitalization occurs more frequently. Common acute diseases may lead to a weakening condition that quickly degenerates into a life-threatening illness. And one of the things that happened to me last summer, I got dizzy. I got dizzy one day, and I went into the hospital. And they decided, well, since you're 74 years old and you'll be 75 in October, we better hospitalize you. So they kept me in the hospital for a couple days. And of course, well, anyway, I didn't like it. For one thing, the food was terrible. And, they give you that menu and you order something and then they leave something off. Or they give it to somebody else. It's just, anyway, the food was terrible. Exercise, diet, and health needs continue to be top priorities through late adulthood. Because food may not taste as good to them, older people may start eating less or eating less nutritious food, preferring food with a strong taste. Fluids may not have the same zing they once had, so drinking water becomes an afterthought and the individual becomes dehydrated, which is a problem that I have because I'm a sweater. And so I need to drink a lot. Because I like to sweat, and when I exercise, I sweat. But of course, most old people don't have to worry about that because they don't exercise enough to leak any fluids out of their armpits. Because older adults have questionable eating habits, diets high in tasty fats and proteins increase a person's susceptibility to cancers, colon cancer, uterus cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancer, kidney cancer, or pancreas cancer. There are a number of factors that lead to poor nutrition as people get older. They lose their teeth, the enjoyment of food declines because of the loss of taste and smell, fixed incomes that limit the purchase of good food, physical problems that limit shopping, forgetting to eat, loss of appetite. Because they are losing weight, older people assume that they are eating a balanced diet. Strokes, referred to in medicine as cerebrovascular accidents, begin to happen with greater frequency as people get older or snort cocaine. A stroke is when a portion of the brain dies because oxygenated blood is unable to get to the area due to a blood clot or hemorrhage. And this is a rupture. This is a cerebral hemorrhage. And this is a blockage. Now, we have medication now that will dissolve that blockage, as weird as that is. So if we think somebody has had a stroke, one of the things that we can potentially do is we can dissolve this blood clot or this buildup of whatever it is. It's usually it's usually a blood clot. So we have a medication that will actually dissolve this, but we have to give it to the person within a certain amount of time before the brain actually dies. So what we will do is we will check to see what the problem is. If it's a rupture and we give them this medication, it will probably kill them. The hemorrhage will probably expand and they will die. But if it is a blockage, which about 70% of all strokes are caused by a blockage, then it will actually dissolve the clot and the person will go back to normal, as weird as that is. Now, strangely enough, when I had my heart attack in 2010, I went into the emergency room in Havre, Montana, and the doctor didn't like what I was saying to him. He knew I was having a heart attack, and he wanted to keep me from having a stroke. So I was telling him that morphine didn't work. Well, he didn't like that at all because that's part of the protocol. And of course, if he gave me morphine, it wouldn't do anything. I kept saying, "Well, it's not that painful. I'm not in that much distress." So he gave me the TMZ stuff. He gave me the medication to dissolve blood clots because he was almost sure that I was having a stroke. I didn't. I wasn't. Anyway, so then they had to life flight me out to Great Falls. And here I am today. An aneurysm is when the blood vessel wall weakens, allowing a herniated wall. The expansion of the wall may cause a ballooning effect that puts pressure on portions of the brain, causing various symptoms. If detected, an aneurysm may be surgically repaired. If not detected or impossible to repair, the aneurysm may hemorrhage and cause damage to the point of death. And the reason it is to the point of death is because this isn't just a common hemorrhage, this is a blowout. It encompasses a lot more of the blood vessel. So because it's a wider opening, it will very frequently cause death, unfortunately. A lot of times these blood vessels are in places you can't operate on, especially up in the brain. You don't want to be cutting into anybody's brain unless you have to. So this very often causes death. Stroke severity usually has to do with the location and how extensive the damage is. Some strokes only show minimal damage, while others cause total paralysis and loss of speech. Sometimes after a stroke, the brain is able to reroute the operation of a function so they have near total recovery. Signs of a stroke: sudden temporary weakness in the face, arms and legs, difficulty speaking, difficulty seeing, unexplained headaches, dizziness, change in personality, change in intellectual function. The younger someone is when they have a stroke, the more likely they will recover. And this is how you can tell if somebody has a stroke. Tell them to stick their tongue out. And if they can stick their tongue out and it doesn't come out from on one side or the other, if they can stick it straight out of their mouth, it's probably not a stroke. If you have a stroke, it's usually on one side of your brain, and that part becomes paralyzed. And the opposite side controls your mouth. So if you stick out your tongue and it comes out on the right side, it comes out on the right side, then that means you've had a stroke on the left side of or on the right side of your brain, because it crosses anyway. So that's what you need to do. Tell them to stick their tongue out. One of the greatest fears of older adults is that they will lose their mental capacities or drift into senility, loss of reality, being helpless, developing incontinence. Another name for senility is dementia, the loss of brain capacity that gets acceleratingly worse, since if you don't use it, you lose it. One of the main symptoms of dementia is inexplicable confusion and frustration. Alzheimer's disease is an irreversible dementia that strikes some individuals. People with Alzheimer's tend to lose their intellectual functionings fairly rapidly until they can no longer control their bodily functions and they die. Alzheimer's disease is caused by the loss of nerve cells due to the death and decay of neurons and the production of a protein that begins to accelerate the process. This protein is known as amyloid plaque. And that's what amyloid plaque looks like. It's a chunk, it's kind of like a black hole in your brain. Besides the buildup of amyloid plaque around the neurons, protein filaments called neurofibrillary tangles develop inside neurons and make them non-functional. When this occurs in the area of the brain that produces acetylcholine, the individual rapidly loses memory and function. Formation of amyloid plaque and neurofibrillary tangles is normal as we age. The difference between normal formation and the rapid formation in Alzheimer's seems to be the rapidity in the formation and the area of the brain where the formation takes place. Alzheimer's disease does not usually present itself profoundly in the beginning. The individual may garble messages or go on sudden spending binges. The individual will also become confused, irritable, restless, and agitated, with impaired judgment, concentration, orientation, and speech. Parkinson's disease is characterized by motor symptoms: slow walking, difficulty getting out of chairs, slow hand tremors. The disease is caused by the deterioration of dopamine-producing cells in the substantia nigra. Since Parkinson's disease is caused by the degeneration of brain cells, one area of the research that seems as if it might have rich potential to alleviate the symptoms is stem cell research. Unfortunately, people with little understanding of the source of stem cells have blocked stem cell research in the United States because of the abundance of stem cells in fetal tissues, embryonic stem cells, and umbilical cord stem cells. There are also adult stem cells. Most stem cells have the capability of forming similar cells to the cells in their proximity, and this is known as equipotentiality. So a stem cell will grow to be next, whatever it's next to, a stem cell will become that kind of a cell. And that's one of the beauties of stem cells. Cancer is the second leading cause of death in older adults after cardiovascular disease. Half of all diagnosed cancers and more than 60% of all deaths due to cancer are in people over the age of 65. While some cancers are easier to treat, lung cancer deaths have risen 104% in men and a whopping 452% in women since 1960. Some cancers do seem to be genetic in nature, but others are caused by overstimulation and abuse. So why an increase of 452% in women? It's because before 1960, women didn't normally smoke. And after 1960, they decided that they needed to become equal to men, so they started smoking. And eating less nutritious foods. Now we eat over-processed foods, hyper-processed foods, and it's causing cancers. Interesting, isn't it? The U.S. culture focuses on and promotes youthfulness. Even commercials aimed at older people have actors who are just barely old enough to represent their age group. This is known as ageism, prejudice against old people, and gerontophobia, fear of old people. Gerontophobia. I think it's gerontophobia. As people age, they tend to have less energy and must use their expertise to compete with those. Wait a minute, let me start this all over again. As people age, they tend to have less energy and must use their expertise to compete with those with more drive. They must maximize their gains and minimize their losses whenever possible. They must be selective about which tasks they attempt. They must optimize the energy they put into tasks. They must compensate for losses by refocusing energy where it can do the most good. SOC theory, selection, optimization, and compensation, is what this is called. Ugh. Wisdom, like intelligence and creativity, is almost impossible to define. Wisdom seems to be a deep understanding of knowledge and one's limitations, an understanding of what is automatic and why, an understanding of what is known and what it means. The most frequent problem that you hear when you talk to people over 65 is that they don't remember things like they used to. Memory searches tend to take longer. The degree of slowdown tends to depend on the level of mental activity. The more cognitively active you are, the less rapid the decline. And that's what I'm doing with you guys. I'm being cognitively active. Episodic memory declines with age. Working memory, memory involved with handling simultaneous thoughts. Source memory, the ability to remember where you heard, learned, or saw something. Explicit memory, information you purposefully recall. Semantic memory, our general knowledge, remains intact despite an individual's advanced years. Procedural knowledge, such as driving a car or riding a bike, remain unchanged into geriatrics. Implicit memory, unconscious memory that guides our behavior and feelings, does not change with age. Primary short-term memory that allows us to consciously maintain information in our short-term memory does not decline with age. IQ scores of people in the late adulthood show a steady decline. Problem solving and speed of performance are the reason why. Verbal skills tend to show no decline. Further research seems to show that difficulty solving problems may have more to do with new and unfamiliar information. DVD players, of course, they always flash 12 o'clock because people don't know how to put the right time on them. And of course, smartphones. All these new things. Who needs them? And there you go. While speaking is rarely a problem unless there are organic problems such as dementia or stroke, reading is quite an involved process. Working memory, processing speed, and inhibition are areas that decline with age, and all of these contribute to the reading process. Other reading processes include vision, comprehending the words, syntax, semantics, integration of the words into a whole, context, and pragmatics. While older adults and younger adults process language in a very similar manner, research shows that younger adults tend to pause longer at the end of sentences. Younger readers spend much more time on their vocabulary and concepts. Older readers infer more from context and spend their time connecting new information with old information. One area of research has tried to discover why older individuals tend to drift off into irrelevant topics when speaking, off-target verbosity. Research has speculated that this trend may be caused by various circumstances: lower frontal lobe functioning in the brain, psychosocial stress, extroverted personality, smaller social networks, lower social support. People tend to speak to older adults in a similar manner to the way they speak to infants and small children. Some of this is because hearing loss is common among older adults. Some has to do with the proclivity for dementia, but some of it may be tied to negative stereotypes. Today you're going to learn a new language. This is elder speak. Eggs are eggy weggy, drink is drinky winky, and sleep is nighty nighty. Oh man, that's funny. While there isn't a switch that flips to old when you reach 65, to pretend that there isn't a continual decline into old age would be illogical. While most of the decline is physical, there are social and family changes that occur as well. The individual will probably stop working at some point. Creativity and discovery lose their allure, and the new focus is on maintenance and quality of life, a lifestyle. Focuses on what is happening to the individual rather than what is happening to others. Older people report having fewer intense negative emotions than when they were younger. Some studies show lower intensity to positive emotions as well. Positive emotion, though less intense, increase in frequency in very late adulthood. Emotional control is equated with healthy coping, especially in late adulthood. Robert Peck has speculated that older adults go through 3 personality adjustments. The first is ego differentiation versus work role preoccupation. This refers to the adjustment that must be made from an individual's work role to that of retirement. With retirement, the individual can refer to themselves as what they do and now must adjust to identifying themselves in other terms. The second adjustment is body transcendence versus body preoccupation. As the body changes in old age, unless the individual allows themselves to age gracefully and accepts the changes, they will be distressed by who they become. The focus needs to change to the external. The last elderly challenge is ego transcendence versus ego preoccupation. This involves accepting one's impending death by living life to the fullest. This also involves trying to help those who will survive you. Researchers have identified 4 basic personality types among older adults: integrated, armored defended, passive dependent, and unintegrated. People with an integrated personality are well adjusted and flexible in their approach to life. There are 3 types of integrated people. Reorganizers are very active and rearrange their lives by substituting new roles. Focused people reserve their energies for a few new roles. Disengaged have low levels of energy but are satisfied with their lives. People who are armor defended seek to gird themselves against anxiety and other threats against their well-being. They come in 2 types: those who cling to their middle-aged activities, including employment, past when others have retired, and those who withdraw from activities as defense against old age. And of course, obviously, I'm the one. I'm 75 and I'm still working. Therefore, I must be the first kind. I don't look like that, though. I'm not going to show you my muscles. Maybe I will at the end. Passive dependent people have a difficult time with others. Some establish a strong dependency for someone. Some are totally apathetic towards others and their surroundings. People who display an unintegrated personality are described as people suffering from dementia. They have poor emotional control, disorganized thought processes. Retirees obviously have more time for leisure activities than they did when they were working. Leisure activities for older adults tend to be less physical than activities of a younger age. Religiosity is incorporating a spirituality with a social aspect of life, living their spirituality in a group context. As people move into late adulthood, their religiosity tends to increase. Women have higher religiosity than men. African American and Latinos have higher religiosity than European Americans. Religiosity is associated with better physical health, better mental health, longevity, better coping skills, greater sense of well-being. Someone has to go first. When a spouse dies, a surviving spouse has entered widowhood. More women are widows than men are widowers. Widowhood may mean remarriage, retraining or education for jobs, reentry into the workforce, participating in voluntary organizations and activities, developing additional time and effort into parenting and grandparenting. And the reason I'm showing Scarlett Johansson here is because she's the Black Widow. You get it? Oh. When a person becomes a widow, they have the following needs: experience bereavement and express grief, explore companionship needs, especially if the death is the first adult experience in being alone, dealing with the good intentions of others, seeking experiences that build self-confidence, personal skills, and competencies, gaining assistance and engaging socially with others. Men who lose their spouses tend to have a more extreme reaction, mainly due to the fact that men tend not to have a close confidant like women do. Loneliness and depression are common reactions. When widowhood and retirement happen at the same time, things may be devastating. Suicide is not uncommon in such circumstances. As people age, their cohorts die. They die out around them, and they lose their automatic social support that they have always had. Friendship provides psychological intimacy and camaraderie. People in late adulthood tend to optimize their social networks by ending peripheral and negative relationships and focusing on happy, fulfilling relationships. The average person spends 10 to 15 years in retirement. Older adults fit one of 5 lifestyle patterns: continue to work full time, continue to work part time, retire and become active in volunteer work, retire and become active in recreational leisure activities, retire and later return to work full time. There are many factors in play determining when an individual will retire. Age when they can receive Social Security. At 60, if you retire at 62, you get 75% of your retirement pay. If you retire at 65, you get 100%. If you retire at 70, you get 132% of your retirement pay. And that's where I am right now. I didn't retire until I was 70. So my Social Security, I get 132%. Now that's okay if you're going to live to be 90, but if you're only going to live to be 71 or 72, you need to retire earlier. Social or economic reasons force early retirement or older work needs. Right now, one of the things that's happening is a lot of people are retiring earlier because they're being forced out by this Doge thing. A lot of people that work for the government. So there's a lot of factors as to why people are retiring early, or why they want to retire at all. It may be that they're being forced out. That's just the way the world works. Um, well, I think I already told you that we lost $13,000 out of one of my wife's IRAs because of the tariff crash that caused the stock market to crash. Ugh, that's a lot of money. Anyway, inability to do work-related activities forces the individual to retire. Of course, I'm a college professor. I can talk all day when I'm not, when I don't have a cold or allergies or something, whatever's going on. So I don't need to retire. But I don't want to live at 7,000 feet. I don't think I could live for very long at 7,000 feet. People who are forced to retire due to health or occupational health limits are not as happy as people who retire of their own free will. People who are flexible and develop hobbies, interests, and friendships that are not work related adjust better to retirement. Having a sufficient financial base for retirement means to start making plans and saving in later early adulthood or early middle adulthood. While retirement seems like something you do on a select day, the reality usually takes place in stages. Pre-retirement takes place in 2 substages. The first substage is denial and a negative attitude that you will need to worry about it. The second substage is when people realize that retirement is fast approaching and they must make plans or get caught with nowhere to go. And that's kind of where I am. I'm not real bright about these things. Directly after retirement, most people feel happy and peaceful due to their new independence. Time tends to be taken up with getting projects done that people have been putting off for years. After all the projects are completed or discarded as petty, the individual might begin a cycle of depression as they realize that they have withdrawn from a fulfilling social structure for isolation and loneliness. They may feel at loose ends. Many people may take up volunteer work, travel if they can afford it, or new hobbies. They must find meaningful and enjoyable ways to spend their time. And here's a lady lifting weights with her purse on her arm. Once they have dealt with their new lives, people will make a realistic appraisal of their options for the future. Volunteer work may be too much like work with inadequate rewards. Hobbies may be boring and lonely. Others may find volunteer work highly rewarding and hobbies intensely satisfying. People get in a routine that becomes established and remains stable. They accept their new role and no longer miss their working lives. Expectations change as do behavioral standards and social norms. People will stay in the stable stage until they are either forced back into the workforce for one reason or another, or they become so debilitated that they can no longer function independently. About 1/3 of retirees return to work for financial reasons. The last stage of Erikson's psychosocial theory is a sense of integrity versus a sense of despair. This crisis normally takes place as we are in our last years of life. An individual will look back and either see that their life has been full and rich, or they will look back wishing they could make amends for some of the things that they have done. And that is the end. And I can tell you, I worked in the hospital for 30 years. I worked in ICU, I worked in the emergency room, I worked all over the hospital. And one of the things that I can tell you is that when people die, it's usually fairly peaceful. It usually is, unless there are strange circumstances. So, I've watched this process take place. Usually, well, anyway, I've watched people die, and it's not as bad as I mean, it's not like they're gasping for air. It's usually not that way. They usually just kind of slow down and stop breathing. So now I'm going to show you my muscles. I think I am anyway. There we go. Wait a second. Let me take off my sweatshirt. It's kind of cold in here. Okay, we saw all those guys. I don't look like the guy on top. The one with all those massive muscles. Whoops, that's not right. Let's do that. All right. There you go. That's not too bad, is it? I'm still there somewhere. I still have arms. Wait a minute. Where's my other arm? Whoops, I'm going the wrong way. There we go. Both my arms. Okay, I'm okay. Ta-da! So it is possible to maintain yourself. All you need to do is work at it. And I do work at it. I'll go to the gym, and I have an exercise regimen called anaerobic exercise, where I lift certain muscle masses, certain muscles, and then I'll go to another lift which lifts other muscles, and then I'll go to another lift that lifts other muscles, and then I'll come back to the one I was doing initially. Okay. Anyway, it's called anaerobic. You lift to exhaustion every time you lift. Anyway. Okay, well, that's it. I'll talk to you guys later. Oh, next week we're going to talk about death. So if that bothers you, then don't look at next week's lecture. It's just the last chapter. But and everybody does it, eventually. So next week we talk about death.